Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Definitely Discussion. This is episode 355. 404. that episode 355. I just can't get it out of my head. But today is going to be more theme-oriented, and we're going to discuss blunt or edge weapons for self-defense. And we'll be looking at moral compass, personal value system, legally defensible. And if you saw the test run, it was I thought it was an incredible test run. It went for like an hour. And the feedback from the test run was overall positive. So if that's any indication, I think how this episode is going to go, which I think is going to be excellent. So the guests today are Dr. Tim Hartman and Growling Dog, Rene Cocolo. And so without further ado, I'm going to be bringing these guys up. But one last statement. This episode and the content of it is not legal advice. Okay, so based on what you get out of this interview, please, you have to consult with your attorney or check your laws depending the geographic area you live. Okay, here we go. Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, you?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, so that test run, huh? I thought the feedback from it was excellent. How about you guys?
Yeah, I got actually I got quite a few messages literally right after. I'd say about 95% positive.
Okay.
95.
Yeah, you always have a few that they're not going to agree or what have you. But I thought the majority, matter of fact, I don't think I got one negative comment or message unless. How about you, Datu?
Nothing negative.
Good. Okay. I thought it was a great test run. I thought a lot of fantastic things came out of that. To be honest, I didn't think of, like, for instance, when Ray brought up about color and stuff like that, which we're going to get into. But just just quickly, quick. The folks that maybe might not know, quick martial arts background, Rene.
Oh God, boxing, Thai boxing, Jeet Kune Do, PTK, and the Inasano blend as well. Krabi Krabong, like full contact stick fighting, and probably some other stuff that I haven't done in a long time, which I wouldn't say I'm an authority on.
Okay, no. And Datu.
Modern East is my primary, strong secondary in Balintawak and Kombatan, Kuntao, Sikaran, a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. All right, fantastic. So, I'm so glad you guys came on. I was thinking like who to choose, but then I'm like, you know what? I think this would be a fun pairing. So, in the test run, but I tell you though, the test run validated my thought because that test run I thought was fantastic. Okay, so edge weapon kind of speaks for itself, but this question is for both of you. What defines, in your guys' opinion, blunt weapon? So Rene, you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess anything that's not sharp, in my opinion, right? Like literally edged weapon, anything that has a blade on it, or anything that you can sharpen into a blade. For me, it's anything from like the carabiner that we spoke about, which I think I have 2 on my belt today, to palm sticks, to like anything. This is what we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
What else? Sorry, I just finished work. Flashlights. Unlike the one that Tim was talking about yesterday, mine does have a DNA collector. There it is. So yeah, that's kind of the way, in layman's terms, how I would define it.
Yeah, and same question for you, Dante.
It's self-explanatory. Anything you can pick up that is blunt, that would be an impact tool. Anywhere from, pocket stick, flashlight, tape dispenser. Anything that can be in your hand. Also, something as a force multiplier. Edge weapon. Any kind of blade. There's some in betweens We also have, so you can talk about screwdrivers, you can talk about ice picks. So it's not sharp, but it can puncture a ballpoint pen. It can be, depending on the type, the one we talked about the other day, the one I happen to carry is it is a tack flash or tactical one, which I don't think this would penetrate as much, but if I have this out, I guess it would. But I mean, you can penetrate with a pencil too. So you're going to have some crossover tools. I think hybrid tools maybe is a better term for it.
Yeah, that's my next question. Actually, those ones that basically they have a point but don't have an edge, but certainly can have an impact translation, I guess, if you will. Like if I took a palm stick, even though it has a point, but if I drive it into the temple, it obviously has a blunt impact as well, depending on how sharp the point is. I guess so. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think I have swords that are extremely dull, but will still chop a tree down. It's the amount of force that's in behind it. Like I was saying yesterday, like one of my buddies nearly lost his life with one of these things, just like a 25-cent big pen. So yeah, like even like the claw of a hammer, they're not sharp, but there's been plenty of times I've used the claw of a hammer to, ram into a board to keep myself from going somewhere or, hold it in place. Like one of my hammers, my stiletto, it's a titanium hammer, and I'm not endorsed by them, but I will take an endorsement if they want to call me. I've taken that claw and split 4x4 posts with it. We're talking massive 4x4-inch wooden posts, and I've cracked them in half with those.
That's a good point. Exactly. The force behind it. Like if you take, again, like a tactical pen that's not maybe has a point, but not maybe necessarily, really sharp or pointed, but with the force behind it, it's not to say it's not going to go in, you know what I mean, on flesh or what have you.
Not to mention garden tools. I mean, shovels, spades, hose, the hand things, whatever you use to dig out your garden. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of stuff with enough velocity, it's gonna puncture or cut.
Weight transfer, you hear about guys falling on pieces. Again, in my trade, you hear about guys falling on a piece of rebar on itself. It's pretty blunt, but when you have 200 pounds falling on it, next thing you're shish kebabs, right?
That's wow. So yeah. So where does it fall? In other words, environmental, I guess, and what's there, what's accessible, you know what I mean? So in other words, granted, you might not have something on you, your person's per se. However, though, if we look at environmental, what is within reach, and that's where I think some of that other stuff can come into play, like a stapler or the tape thing that Dr. Tim just showed, or tools in your trade, right? I mean, you might not have them on you, but they're accessible,
I think we can agree, at least I think we can agree on it's also the mentality behind it and how you look at something. Like I had a pal that was from Eastern Europe, and when he came to Canada, he and I were walking down the street, and he saw 4 guys walking towards him. It gives you an idea of where he lived. That he looked at them, and the first thing he did is reach down and grab the stone. It's like that's all he had on him, and I was like, hey, dude, like we're good here. You don't have to worry about this.
Yeah, we're in
but
Canada.
That's his mentality. He saw a stone, realized this is the only thing I have, and if I have to put in work, I'm going to put in work. So I think it's like anything that we look at, whether, like I was saying yesterday, with the pig leg and the plastic knives, like it's all in how you perceive whatever you're working with.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. Datu, anything?
It all based on environment and scenario. I'm actually looking at some of the comments here. And I think also if we're going to be talking about this today, we can talk about things that we've done around the world and different things, but ultimately I think we're talking about a lot of what we would look at in North America, because when I carry, I worry about what I can carry from state to state. But when I'm in Europe, there's different rules. I mean, it's funny. My first switchblade that I owned, I bought from Germany legally. Now they're illegal
Over there or here?
in Germany.
In Germany.
Well, it's illegal
Okay.
here. I've got a couple
Yeah.
of automatics that are in my collection, but they're in my collection.
Okay.
But as far as as far as the what I carry, I mean, I don't carry anything automatic. But now the thing here is, if you can open up one-handed now in Germany, it's considered illegal.
Really, just whether regardless of the assist.
Let me rephrase that. That's what a German told me the last time I was over.
Okay. All right.
Who's this? Now, here's the thing. When we talk about this stuff, as Dean said, by no means is this legal advice. You need to know the restrictions, just like we did the flying with equipment, martial art equipment. You must always check things, because we are talking based on our experience today, which is April 28th, 2023. You see this video years down the road, it doesn't magically change. It is what it is here. And like I said, my first Switchblade I bought in Germany. I went back, and now it's no longer legal to purchase it there.
Right.
So, and who knows?
It's funny because yesterday, after we finished chatting, I ended up sending a message I was chatting with somebody from Finland, and I asked them what are their carry laws there. Because again, I'm going to be going there for a seminar, and then they're like, absolutely not.
Wow.
It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, you know. I mean, geez, yeah, they seem like, for instance, which came up in the test run. Like, for instance, like I know London, you can't even carry anything.
Their kitchen knives are rounded on the front end of it.
No box cutters.
No, yeah. Well, I think you have that stuff so like I know in Sweden, or at least when I used to go to Sweden, you could have a work knife at work. Yeah. If you're going to and from work, that would probably be an exception. They let you slide on. But once you're done and out in the normal world, you don't have a knife on you.
Right. Yeah. So that's a whole nother aspect of geography, which we're going to get into more.
It's funny how, like knives are illegal in London, yet they have a lot of people get hurt with pint glasses, right? And other glass objects.
Keep the criminal. It's the same gun argument. If you take the weapons away from people, the only ones that are going to have them are the criminals. But
here's a comment from Francisco.
For a minute there, I thought that was Rene.
Oh, I can't see the comment. I can't see the comments again. I feel like it's stuck.
Okay, I got you.
Well, I will say this. Here we go. This is a good one. Good morning, Guru Dean and Datu Tim.
Nice.
He can't leave.
Who was that? Was that Ty?
Francisco. Rattan drop. No, Rene. There you go. Thank you. Francisco, you are now my number one, my friend here.
If I only had feelings, Francisco.
No, he's gonna make Francisco's a good guy. Okay, here we go. Here's his I don't know if it was mentioned at all in an ADC episode or during the episode's test run, but a cold steel AK-47 is an excellent blunt and edge weapon tool. I do not carry an ADC or anything for SD, just my hands. But if I did, the cold steel AK-47 would probably be it. I'm not familiar. Are you guys familiar with this? I'm not.
I'm going to pull it up right now.
That's interesting.
That's a negative for me.
Yeah, I'm not familiar, but not to say that doesn't.
Anything named AK-47, I kind of want to stay away
steel.
From.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a knife. I mean, it's a knife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. It's also 131 from Knife Center. Can I share here?
You should be able to. Yeah, people have done it in the past.
It's a safe space, Tim. It's a safe space. We can all share.
Okay. I'm just trying to see how screen. All right, here we go.
Yeah. All right.
Boom. Sure.
Okay. All right. There we go, folks.
And then I'm going to talk about this with Francisco.
All right, let's hear it.
So I can't see it. So
okay. So it is a blade and closed. It can be used as an impact tool. But here's the problem we run into. If I pull a knife out open or closed, I'm introducing a lethal weapon into the encounter. It doesn't matter. This is the problem I have with some of the mindset of the people who use Bram Frank's gunting. They think because it's closed, it's a legal tool. It's never a legal tool. It's a blade. Or actually, I'm not saying it's not a legal tool. What I'm saying is it's a lethal weapon if it's the edge version. Nobody knows the intent. Now, if someone pulls a knife out closed on me and I see that it's a knife and I'm armed, I'm shooting them. I'm not going to take the chance that they're going to use it as an impact tool on me because they still have that with a quick flick.
Right.
When it comes to the use of lethal force in general, once again, do your research. It's based on the perception of lethal, of life-threatening situation. Someone having a knife open or closed, to me, I feel that my life is in jeopardy, and I will take appropriate actions. There we go. Perfect example.
Here's a crimpet, which Dot 2 is reference, and and I think it's clever. I like it.
Oh yeah, I think it's a real. Yeah. I like it from a technical point of view, but even that, if you didn't know, okay, who knows about that tool?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not sure on that, but much to your point, if you go to use this and you pull it out and you have obviously know it's got a dull edge, but obviously the person across from you has no idea.
Not necessarily, because those blades are interchangeable.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I mean, that was a weird noise. Oh, that's my my printer's printing something. I mean, the scales of every knife can be changed.
Yeah.
But the reality is, are you going to take that chance? Like, I don't give a shit if you're holding if you're holding a trainer or a real blade, you're walking towards me. Obviously, as we always say, if you can get away, you can get away. But if you're coming at me with what I think is a knife and you're in front of my truck, I don't care if you're trying to show me the blade, you're getting run over.
Well,
fuck you. I that's your problem.
People always talk to me. What are you doing if there's people in front of you? They're called speed bumps.
Yeah, I used to say that. Like my favorite knife disarm is to hit people with my truck. It just here, take my wallet, and then 2 seconds later you get run over, and I'll take my wallet and yours back, right?
I'll take my wallet back and
yours. I had a guy once at a seminar do that to me, where he's like, "Hey man, what do you think of my knife?" And he had it like chambered like this as he's talking to me, and I just like pushed off, and I was like, "Put your fucking knife down." It's like, this is not the way you have a conversation, right? Yeah. It's like, "Hey, you like my gun? Do you want to see it?"
Yeah.
It's like,
"Hey, this is how." Listen, "Hey, what do you think of my knife?" "Oh, that's real neat." That's one thing, but no.
Yeah, put it on the table. Put it on the table.
There you go.
Let me pick it up and just back off. And that's, even when I'm cooking at a house and I have to hand a knife to my wife or vice versa, it goes on the counter. And then I pick it up or she picks it up. It's not here's the blade.
Yeah.
It's bad practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no argument there. Like, yeah, that's bizarre. The guy draws out, indexes it. "Hey, what do you think of my knife?"
When people try to use an edged weapon, I wouldn't use a firearm as a pistol whip. I wouldn't pistol whip someone unless I ran out of ammo. I mean, we've done stuff at the academy. Someone had a problem with their the weapon system that we're using. It shoots paintballs, rubber, and chalk, and it ran out of and it's like a CO2 thing. So it ran out of stuff. So the person dropped the weapon and went to engage physically. I'm like, why didn't you just hit him with it? You've got like a pound of metal. Smack him in the head. I mean, this person's charging you as you're shooting them. And whatever reason, things went sideways. Use that as a force multiplier, because obviously your life would be threatened in that scenario. But, but if I pull out a pistol and just to use that as a force multiplier instead of a ballistic weapon, I mean, all you're going to do is see, he's got a gun. He's got a gun.
No.
I'm going to defend myself with it. I'm going to use it as a Kubaton. No, you're not.
Here's a comment from Mike Raymond. I guess in UK, Somali immigrants, they'll actually carry the bicycle spokes. Unreal. I mean, think about that. A bicycle spoke.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of improvised tools.
Yeah, it's like we spoke about yesterday, like bike chains and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that is just unassuming. I had a friend of mine that used to carry a big bike lock, those U-locks. He didn't own a bike. You know what I mean? Like, that bike lock wasn't used for a bicycle. It was used to unlock situations. It was, again, I think that's why I love studying and reading about stuff like that, because it shows the mentality of how some people are.
Oh yeah.
And what you got to deal with on what I hate to say I'm paranoid, but that kind of stuff makes me paranoid because that's the stuff I think about all the time. Like if I'm at a concert or if I'm walking, which I really try not to go into really crowded places, but if I'm at a place where I'm sitting beside a guy and the guy's got a knife in his pocket, it makes me uncomfortable. Even though I have a knife in my pocket. It just,
yeah, because the implications. I mean, and the tension. Here's
I like Joseph's comment, but I liked
that's a point, Rene.
I would have led with the second half of the comment before the first half. I would have reversed the order.
All right, let's see it. All right, so Joe is saying, I have a auto open for bench made I can use, but if asked, I just say it was a tool for work, cutting rope, tape, but etc. I also mentioned I'm a firefighter.
Yeah.
And
I would lead with that.
Yeah. As opposed to
law enforcement and emergency service people. A lot of knife companies, they'll have automatic knives, and they will sell them to either law enforcement, fires, EMT, stuff of that nature. And it's. I mean, really, when you need a one-handed open to cut something, not cut someone, because honestly, my knife that I carry, I can deploy much quicker than an automatic.
Francisco, Dr. Tim is 100% agree. I do have an AK-47, but it is the first live blade I already bought, but I do not carry it. When I think about SD knife, it's not what I think of. I feel you cannot, to a degree, with a blade. I just like it because, like Frank's knife design, it has a pommel that Konya. Yep. Okay.
I think one of the things that I was thinking about quite a bit yesterday after we finished chatting is like, yeah, we can make all these excuses or ideas of how it's going to be perceived by the law. It's like, well, I was only peeling an orange when I was being attacked, or whatever is going on in our heads. But let's also face it, law enforcement people aren't stupid. A guy could crash through my house and I could blast him with a shotgun. And even though I have some gun oil on my desk saying I was just cleaning my firearm when this guy broke into my house, it's not going to work. They're just going to say,
no. Yeah.
Sure you were. It's like, okay, well, let's try on these handcuffs to see how they fit anyways, right?
Yeah.
So this is what I carry. It's a CRKT, Columbia River Knife Company. I can open it pretty fast. Unfortunately, it's out of production. It's the Casper Kershaw model. My idea of if I'm going to use a knife as an impact tool, it's because I didn't have time to deploy the blade.
100%. You got to deal with the threat.
I sit there, I use it as a force multiplier, clear, and my mindset is that if I'm drawing it's like when we said in the previous show, for those who weren't there, I've been shooting since I was 5. My father was a trooper. We had 100 acres of property. I think I hit the target when I was 8. I could always hit the ground, so it was always 100% on that. But the thing here was he taught me at a very young age, if I draw a weapon, if I'm not prepared to use it, do not use it, So this is what I carry when I walk my dog, and it does have the DNA collector. This is a Bushnell. Yeah. This thing, oh my God, from a quarter mile away, that's like 1,000 kilometers, I guess, Rene. No. I can light the street sign up from the end of my street.
Yeah, I'm beginning to really like the flashlight more and more.
For this is great.
You said flashlight this time, right?
I said flash. He said flash.
No, I said.
And I think, and then what was it? Errol said it was a micro flashlight. But anyways, but I like this because listen, when it comes to if I'm going to carry an impact tool, I want a flashlight because actually, you know what? Listen, when you go to the restaurant these days, font has gotten smaller and they've made mood lighting, which makes it very hard to see. Now, do I need readers? Yeah, I do. But if I hit the menu with the light, I can read it.
You can't
I
stand
don't think
it.
the font. I don't think the font's gotten smaller, mate.
It's
I
gotten a
think
lot
this. We're
smaller.
getting older.
No. Well, no, that too. But I mean, the font has gotten smaller because there's more items. Before it was
You
like
know,
Chibaga, Coke, no Pepsi.
I remember. Remember the. I don't know what it was like in the U.S., but the cops here used to carry the big mag lights. You know,
Yes.
the
Yes.
4D battery mag lights
I have
to
down here
illuminate.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, to illuminate things,
Yeah.
which were mostly used to night people. I remember
So
when I was bouncing, a bunch of guys. Sorry, Tim. A bunch of guys used to carry those, and then a lot of the guys, the batteries were even dead. It was just, oh,
or
it's
the
just my
bulb was gone.
flashlight.
The bulb was smashed with it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just
So what happened with those? Because I've had attorneys coming through my school, and urban legend is what happened. It was all good until an attorney goes for one of their clients to go, hey, listen, takes out the mag light, opens up the battery, drops that end, takes the other end off because both ends could come off, and go, oh look, metal pipe, and then the whole flashlight industry changed. I mean, if you think about, they stopped carrying batons, full size ones. They went to collapsing. Flashlights became the Kubaton, because now you don't see, even though it's a Kubaton is like a Class C misdemeanor or something along those lines. But right now, it's all about the flashlight, and I mean, this is a great one. I mean, this has got a lot of mass to it,
Yeah.
and it
I love
lights
them.
up everything.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. And this was when I used to train under the Atienzas. Butch Atienza's favorite weapon was a vehicle antenna. I guess
When they had them.
When they had them.
Very few have them. I mean, they still find them,
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my instructors told me about that once. Because they're easily removed from a vehicle, especially if you're anticipating an ambush.
Yeah.
Again, and I'll go back to when I was bouncing, and the 5 minute walk to my vehicle used to be the most stressful walk because you never know what the fuck's gonna happen, right? But definitely car antenna. One of my favorites was actually a pal of mine who used a hot cup of coffee to get out of a situation. Yeah, there used to be a gang in Toronto called the UTs, and they used to go on shopping days when they roll people for their docks, for the Doc Martens. And he was walking through a mall, and they kind of cornered him, and he went to a Starbucks or whatever the hell it was, and he grabbed a big, large black coffee and did one of these things. Which again, improvised weapon or whatever you want to call it, I thought was pretty smart.
That was. Here we go. Okay, we got this question from Joe Bates, and it'll be for both of you. Okay, do any of you prefer carrying a tactical flashlight with slight serrations on the front as opposed to a knife, or is a preference to carry both?
That's a good question. If I'm going out at night to walk my dog, I'll carry a flashlight, but I prefer. And this is just me, so please, just remember this is my own personal preference. I prefer fixed blades. I have a very visible fixed blade that I carry. Because my philosophy is if at any point I feel that I need to draw a weapon or protect myself with some sort of tool, it's gone beyond beyond any kind of communication. And I prefer a fixed blade. I don't mind the flashlight. I remember a couple of times there were people running up and I had the flashlight up, so they, it kind of startles them a little bit. But for me, I prefer a fixed blade.
Datu?
So it's a complex answer. Ultimately, I don't want to have to carry anything. I mean, listen, if the flashlight is a force multiplier, why not just work on using your force? I mean, I don't feel a need to use a weapon for my day-to-day self-defense needs. Now, I have been in places where I had a knife in one hand and a flashlight in the other because that's what I had. I was in Europe, and we felt that the immigrant hotel staff set us up and told us to go down a road, which was more by our standards an alleyway, and stuff was falling from the rooftops, and it was all very sketchy. We were getting ready to kill the staff, So yeah, I had a knife ready to go.
That's crazy.
But the thing here is, I don't think about reaching for a blade. I think about going after the person. So I do carry a flashlight. So my everyday carry is a regular. It's a Pelican. It's a Case company. We talked about it. There's nothing here like that. But when I walk my dog, I have something beefier. Because I'm also concerned about, and we've got animals all over the place. I have a walking stick that's usually for the other dogs in the neighborhood that are unfortunately being let out by the owners without any. I have a blade that's for the owners. I have the flashlight if I'm out at night because I want to see where I'm going, and more importantly, I want cars to see me. So I'll have it lit up, and if a car comes near me, I will point it at the ground so you can see the flashlight. But I'm not carrying this because I feel the need to defend myself. I've got a 170-pound Rottweiler, and I got an 85-pound pit bull. Who the hell's going to mess with me? They're going to go after an easy target. Criminals don't like dogs.
That's true.
So they want.
That's a great point, Tim. Because I was literally thinking about that as you said it. With I live, there's conservation areas all over where I live, and coyotes are a problem, and other stuff. And I'll tell you what, when I go hiking, I'll carry. I usually carry my blade with me because I found that trying to attack a bear, if a bear attacks you, the flashlight's not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, there's people.
Get away, you grizzly bastard!
Yeah. There's people down in Florida that are trying to make some Second
My
Amendment
whistle.
issues. In Florida, you can open carry if you're hunting or fishing, or if you're fishing. Yeah, hunting or fishing. You can open carry. So there was a guy walking around the pier with a Glock on his hip and an AR-15 in his hand, just to make a point. Now, the whole idea is if you're fishing, if you're down for those who haven't been to Florida, and you go out in the bayou, or you go out in the woods down there, you got boar, which could be up to 400 pounds. And there's a huge boar problem in Florida, which if you're hanging around the Syaks, you're aware of that because, other extracurricular activities. Yeah. There's snakes, there's cats, there's gators, there's all types of things that can eat you down there.
All those snakes that got released too into the Everglades. That's
what was meant for the open carry because you're out in the woods. So for me, like when I drive, sometimes I go over state lines all the time. Now, if I'm going to go somewhere where I might have to take a nap because, I'm old, or it's just I don't want to get a hotel room, I've got knives in my car because I don't want to be, I don't want to disappear. I don't want to be the back of a truck or on a milk carton. But I mean, obviously that's for unique situations. I'm still not carrying it on my person. I'm not concerned about all that. But I mean, my thing is when I carry stuff, I'm worried. Like I said, this is Buffalo, but we still got coyotes. Yeah. We got bears that float around here every now and then. We got other things that are out and about. I had issues where on my back deck there was a possum, and one of my dogs wanted to play tag with it, and it wasn't sleeping. It was, and what the hell? And people tell me possums are bad. They'll kill them right away because they'll bite their horses and infect them and all this other stuff. And I saw the possum teeth. I'm like, that ain't right. I remember having to take a piss once somewhere. I went out towards the woods. There's a raccoon. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. What do you mean? What did the raccoon do?
From Eric.
What did the raccoon do?
It went.
Okay, cool.
You're making a meme, aren't you?
I got to take a screenshot of that later.
I'll do it one more time.
No, it's even in Canada. If you're hunting bears, I believe that the person who's baiting the traps or baiting for bears, they're allowed to carry a pistol on them.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. I remember someone talking to me about that. Yeah. But that's about it. We live in a pretty in Canada, things are a bit different when it comes to firearms. But there was actually the news recently where just down the street from where I live, there was a home invasion. 4 guys went into the guy's house. Owner shot one of the guys, killed him, and then got arrested for discharging a firearm and killing somebody, even though it was his house. There's some sketchy details about the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we definitely we have some different laws when it comes to firearms. There's no stand your ground laws here, and
Yeah.
Same thing. If someone breaks into your house and they turn as you shoot them in the back, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
Like a ballad song will, you're going to jail if you own a ballad song.
Well,
If you
so
get caught.
funny thing with that is, besides it being centrifugal force at one time, if you look at it, it was also like a nunchuck, because when you look at what the definition of a nunchuck was, it had that pivoting point, two. So there was a lot of things people were throwing at when they didn't know. And here's the thing: when you got to figure out what's going on. Like if you go to court, you don't know if someone's trying to make a career off of something, take something that's just, nice,
trying to create a new in the political office.
Yeah, you don't say, hey, this is nonchalant. Nothing should happen to this, but we'll make an example. I was trying to find the post while we were talking. A guy yesterday posted a EDC. So basically, it was a ring with a spike on it, and he's taking it and posting on Instagram while he's on the plane taking off. I'm like, you moron, you freaking moron. When you put stuff like that out there, all it's going to do is make people look closer at the stuff we bring on the plane.
Yeah, right. I mean, exactly. And here's Joe. Craig Mason says, hello.
He says gentlemen, but I don't know who he's talking
to. Definitely me. So here's some. Did you guys see MMA fighter, kickboxer Joe Schilling won his case on his stand ground in Florida? Yeah, Florida, Gabe. That's, geographic. Yeah, I could see that. Unfortunately, though.
Dude, we had a guy here whose house was being firebombed by two guys outside. They're throwing Molotov cocktails at his house. So he called the police, said there's two guys firebombing my house. Yeah. And as he's on the phone, he goes to his gun locker, takes the lock off his gun, racks a mag, goes outside, shoots a tree. You can hear him warning the guys. He shoots the tree. And then he got arrested for discharging a firearm within city limits. Now, it was laughed out of court. And it took like 6 months or a bit more to get his gear back. But those are the kind of laws we're dealing with up here.
Yeah,
like it's batshit crazy. Like batshit crazy.
Here's the thing: when you look at all the laws in a territory, in an area, there's too many to remember. So what's going to happen is the law enforcement officer that shows up is going to make his best decision, what he thinks should be done, and then later you have your time in court. Unfortunately, we want to make sure that we have our ducks in a row long before that. So we do think, so we're not going to have to go to court. But at the end of the day, there is just too much to friggin' know out there. So if you're going to carry something, whatever that something happens to be, make sure you know if it's in the criteria. Ty, we talked about the show the other day. Ty Botting got a pair of rattan sticks on the airplane. They were 24-inch. That was the size. He was able to do it. He talked about it. He had his ducks in a row. And then afterwards, he's like, well, things change afterwards. I don't think I would ever do that again. Or get away with it. But I mean, these were training sticks. They weren't real sticks. It's still a hunk of rattan.
Yeah.
I brought my fencing mask on a flight and had zero problems. And then another friend of mine got into an insane amount of shit about it. It's like, took her off the plane. Yeah, again, because it's, I don't know what the hell you think they're going to do, like strain pasta or whatever when you're on flight. It's just like, yeah, I guess I could wear it and then you can't hit me or I could use it as a weapon. But
so here's okay. So there was a BLM protest that I was concerned coming into our town because there was the knuckleheads that were following them around and causing trouble. Not the BLMers, but some people use an opportunity like that for cause vandalism or looting or stuff of that nature. So I'm watching it live, and lo and behold, here's a guy, dressed up in full gear, like he's got a fencing. So it looked like an SCA guy, Society of Creative Anachronism. He had a helmet, he had a body protection, he had a buckler, he had gloves. I'm like, what the hell? Actually, initially I go, is that some guy dressed as a dog, brother? Then I look, no, way too much armor.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess what first substantiates, again, this is why, I want to have Rene on coming from Canada, because I know the laws up there are significantly different from the laws
Yeah.
here as far as strict and all that. So again, yeah, folks, it's not legal advice. So definitely know, depending where you live, like, know what you can do and know what you can't do. And hopefully this show will shed some light on that.
I think, sorry to interrupt you there, Dean.
Go ahead.
I think some of the stuff that seems to be prohibited or illegal or can cause kind of like issues up here. It's just stuff that looks cool. Like you have the nunchucks. You can own a pair of foam nunchucks, but you can't own a pair of wooden ones.
They're illegal in New York State again.
And like even ballad songs, like, and I'm gonna draw some hate for this, but I can't stand them. Like they're fun. It's like a fidget toy for me. Yeah, it's fun to play with, but
Yeah, I never really.
and again, I don't have the skill set to deploy
Same.
something like that and get into kind of like whatever kind of play thing you want to do. But
So
even the
that's
trainers that I've had, even like the trainers that I've had, I just want to see if I can open it and hit a heavy bag, and half the time I'm not cracking my fingers because I didn't put my finger in properly or whatever. Like for me, part of the my EDC tool or whatever it is, I don't want to think about how I'm holding it or if I have the right side of it or whatever. If I need to use it or if I'm in a situation where I need to deploy it, I just want to make sure that it's the last thing I have to think about.
Yeah, you're sitting there fumbling around with. Yeah, I've never been a fan. Gimmick. I think they're neat, and I have admiration for the people who are very fluent with them and all that. But it was never my thing here.
Well,
but here, I got a comment from Mike.
What made those famous was a movie called Streets of Fire in 1984. And
Streets
then it was also on Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke. But the thing was, the Bally song was for fishermen to be able to open up the knife one-handed. Just like when you think about stilettos and switchblades, those were World War I and World War II amputees. It wasn't a fighting knife. So you look at the karambit. The karambit's a rice knife. It's not a fighting knife. It's a terrible fighting knife. And of course, I know that one everyone's going to, and listen, I've got a whole bunch of, see, I do a little karambit work. I've had karambits for decades, long before you saw, I had my stuff back from Chris Cutlery when it first came out, long before it became the GQ toy. And at the end of the day, it's a toy. It's not real. Come on. When you look at it, how do you argue that in a court of law?
With the curve, you're not arguing that. It's the most bastardized weapon in FMA, as far as I'm concerned. But here's a comment from Mike Raymond for folks who are watching, which, depending on where you live, could be very good advice. Like I always say, when you get arrested, and you will, do these two things. Do exactly what the police tell you and keep your mouth shut until your attorney gets there, right?
Yep.
So sound advice. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. I remember one instructor telling me that, if and this is when I was still a little rambunctious, he said, if something were to happen, at least pick up a payphone or a phone and call. This is back in the payphone days, so it tells you how long ago it was. Call it in and just say A, B, and C happened, and I was defending myself. And then it kind of goes from there. I've never had to do that, but definitely keeping your mouth shut is a very good thing, especially when your adrenaline is going and people around you have no idea what the hell's going on, right?
Right, and you want to advocate for yourself, of course, right? You want to tell, but it's today.
Cooler heads, man. Like you got to make sure that it's once you completely calm down, or you can digest everything, right? It's like yesterday, like after we spoke, I kind of listened to everything that we said yesterday again, and just thought about everything. It's like, how would I answer that differently or whatever? It's like a job interview, man. Like how many times have you gone to a job interview and completely fucked it up until you go home or you're driving, you're like, I should have said this, and you had all these cool answers, right?
It's the worst, right? Or anything, or in relationships, right? What I said, I should have said that.
So listen, if the police show up, and they're gonna cuff and stuff you, or ask for a statement, the first thing you should do is ask for medical attention to check you out. what that's going to do is you've got this adrenaline dump going on. You got this biochemical thing going off in your body. You might not be able to put two sentences together. And the whole thing about defending yourself is if you can articulate what happened in a sane way. Well, the guy said this. I'm like, take a minute. Actually, there's one of my guys used to work ex-CIA, but had to retire for medical issues. He's like, you know what? You do Lamaze type breathing to bring you down. And, the thing is, listen, Tim, worst case scenario, I need to see a doctor. I'm not feeling, I need to see medical attention.
Yeah.
They have to give you medical attention. That gives your body to normalize. And then
that's a good point. One of the things in Truly Safer and being under Tom Sotis is that, of course, don't say anything with your, much like Mike said, but also, officers, I'm not really feeling well. I need to sit down. I need to take time. You know what I mean? Like, like you said, they start badgering you and forcing you there. Well, now that script's gonna be flipped. Like lost on them. Here's another point from Mike regarding cane. As for the cane, unless you need it, you might have to prove you need it as a mobility aid. Don't take it.
Well, if you're going to carry a cane, make sure you use it. So I've had people who've had 1 foot shorter than the other. They would go into government buildings with a 6 foot, actually, there's a hunk of rattan they got from me. And the guy's like, no, look at my shoes. He's got platform shoes because the legs are messed up because he was a vet. He goes, they looked at the bottom of the cane and they saw that the rubber area was worn down. If it looks immaculate, brand new. Now I bought from Miguel Ruby, sold me a pair of, actually we traded a blade for some Kamagong canes I brought back. No one questioned me, but of course, once in a while I do have a limp because plantar fasciitis might be flaring up and I got gray hair. Prior to getting a priority boarding, they'd see this hair and a cane in my hand. Sir, would you like to board first?
Yeah, see, you're going to be fine.
I carry a cane, so I get preferred seating.
Okay, here's the next question I want to get. This would be great stuff from both of you, by the way. And this is something I thought really interesting that Rene brought up yesterday in episode 55. I mean the test run. Weapons that can create attention or just the appearance or the color. So you want to take this one first, Rene?
Sorry, you were saying about
just something you brought up in the test run, like weapons that can create attention based on, but not only that, the color or appearance of them.
It goes back to my comment about a 1022 with a wood stock and a 1022 with a Magpul stock. It just if it looks scary or if it looks like something that's designed to, like as much as I like to joke around and as loud as I can be, I try to draw the least amount of attention on me as possible. And that includes the things that I carry. So I don't carry black on black blades. I'm not saying that I don't have them, but I just don't carry that kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff that I have is just like, it's kind of like the hidden in plain sight. It's, you want to do cool knife drills, like wet your hands or, put on a pair of gloves and do the same drill with that blade that you're carrying or that Kubaton or whatever you have and see how easy it works. Because that makes a huge difference as well. It's actually funny. One of the things that we didn't talk about yesterday, which is kind of a story I wanted to say, is like the way I carry my watch. The only reason I carry it like this isn't to look cool, is because I remember one time I was bouncing and I moved the guy's hand, and his watch face actually smashed me in the eyeball. Ended up getting like a big kind of Dean Franco black eye, and I was like,
what black?
And ever since then, I started carrying my watch like that because I'm telling you, like this thing's a pretty heavy piece of metal, and if you accidentally smack someone on the side of the head, it's gonna suck. At least it's gonna be a pretty good opener, right?
Oh my God, Ty Bonnie, Dim Franco black eye. I'm not sure what black eye he's referencing.
Maybe the bags under your eye.
Yeah.
So,
That was episode 357 or 58. I'm not sure.
Rene, what's your dog brother name again?
Growling dog.
Growling dog. Yeah, growling dog. He doesn't want to call attention to himself. This is how he walks around. You know,
well, it's funny because I didn't actually pick my name. That was Philip Jelna, and he's got a pretty his sense of humor is like mine. And then when I said, "Hey, can you pick my dog name for me?" and then I was like, "Fuck, man, I think I made a huge mistake because he's gonna call me like something ridiculous, like super fun happy dog or something."
Yeah.
He picked that one.
Here's the black one.
Yeah.
And here's the blue one. Same pen.
Right.
So, people look at this, they don't think twice about it. But when you add this, and you add this, and you add this, and then you add that,
yeah,
you got a whole bunch of things going on that people.
You're like the Wolverine of pens.
You asked me how many rings I had. I have all of them. Now I've got how many pens do I have? There we go. There we go. That's for you, Rene. No.
So color then. Color I guess can matter. I don't know.
Well, let's there's another thing too. Is like there's that Hello Kitty thing that looks like it's got two big giant spikes out of it. I don't give a shit what color that is. If someone sees you with that, they're not going to go, "Oh, what a pretty pink little ring that you have."
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're using that to gouge somebody up. It's like I was at sorry, I'm kind of full of stories, but I was at a concert once, and I kind of like a fight broke out between the people in the pit and everything else. And a guy grabbed he had a beer can, and I remember he split it in half, and he had it like two pieces. And he just started smashing people with it, trying to get out of where he was. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. Like he was like slicing with a pop can, right? Like the first few people got sliced up pretty good until he got loose. And it's like, how unassuming is this? I got some sparkling water in my hand. But
wow. No, that is all right. Too many carry what they think are invisible weapons. There's no such thing. The police train too, like Mike Raymond. Yeah, right. We can't insult their intelligence, right? The police.
No, they're not stupid. Like they've seen this before. They watch these videos. They probably train as well, so they've heard it all. There's been times where I sit in a room and it's like I have a cop friend of mine who's like, "Hey, nice carabiner." It's like he's not an idiot. He knows exactly what it's all about.
Here's from Badger Jones. I want to see Tim's tactical Kevlar pocket protector for all those pens. Where's your pocket protector? And then we got it's hard to conceal anything in gray sweatpants. Oh my gosh. And then we got Glenn here for Hartman's hour of Hubert and hand weapons. He might be onto something, Datu. I don't know. Oh, here's a question from Gabe. Okay, so Gabe's question is, does the size of the blade determine if you can carry it in regards to what laws in your state? 100%. In Connecticut, for instance, Gabe, if it's longer than 4 inches, double-edged, can be immediately confiscated from you in Connecticut. I can't speak on other states. I know there's some states similar to Connecticut's laws, but again, blade longer than 4, if it's double-edged, it can be immediately confiscated from you. And you guys, how about you guys first, your laws and what have you?
County to county it changes. Oh, I said county to county it changes.
The city's different from where you live, right, Datu? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is you got to understand a lot of this is about deployment.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a fixed blade, it's a whole different thing than a folder. So there on our books, I don't think it's so much the size. It's more about deployment. How does it?
Yeah, it's both for us in Connecticut.
But it can go from county to county. Can be completely different.
I know. Well, in New York City, for instance, you can't even carry. So there's different right there.
Once again, this is not legal advice. This is advice to look at the book so you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And they're cool, especially with
just
stacking.
with us is sorry with us.
Alone.
with us, when our blades, and again, unless things have changed, you can pretty much carry whatever you want. But just be prepared to be questioned. Like there's times I carry a fixed blade, especially if I'm out in the woods or fishing or whatever else. And I see people carrying fixed blades. There's a lot of like motorcycle enthusiasts up here that carry blades, like fixed blades. Again, the cops will ask you, and it's up to you. Like the bigger prick you are, the longer the conversation is going to be. But for me, and I have been asked about, if I'm out in the woods, they don't give a shit, like whatever. But I'm not going to carry my 13-inch bowie and I'm taking my kids to the park, right? Because there's someone's going to be calling up the cops saying,
"Yeah, you walk around with that." Yeah.
There's some dude here who looks he hasn't slept in a week.
Might cause some concern. Just saying.
Drinking his 14th cup of coffee. It's like,
yes. All right, so we got Paul. There are many observable moments when we see something work. That doesn't mean we should adapt them. What made them work was the ability to adapt based on the totality of circumstances. Yeah, sure, that goes there. Sure.
Well, sorry, who's that? After the pre-show, I bet you Amazon got a whole shitload of orders for carabiners.
Oh my gosh, for those.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, and you know what, I did put one in my shopping cart because I'm looking for carabiners, different carabiners to, with all the luggage I pack, I want to make sure everything can clip together for my backpack with my rollerboard bag.
Yeah.
Sure you are.
Yeah,
I'm definitely.
Oh, I showed you that brass one I had. I had a nice brass one. I mean, that's cool, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, how about work on your open hand combatives?
Yeah. It's funny.
I like the comment about keeping it simple. I think that's like the problem with any kind of fighting is I always look at fighting like, you're a salesperson and you have a basic pitch and you use that basic pitch to do your sales. And then someone says, "Hey, have you ever tried, wearing a big hat or saying these words?" And then you start adding so much shit to it that it gets rid of the simplicity. For me, it's just like when I'm working on my heavy bag, and if I am introducing a tool to play with, it literally is grab and smash. It's not a grab, switch hands, and here it is, right? Like that shit makes me absolutely crazy. And especially when people are putting these videos on, even the stabby videos, it's like, I'm going to show you to stab. And they start doing like all this crazy shit. It's like, what movie did you see this from? Because and the realities that I've been in,
you just described Medusa.
I was going to say, you're looking at. Let's go back to
like,
the
and they pull a knife out.
Wait a minute, you're Medusa.
It drives me bananas. It drives me absolutely bananas. Like, just keep it really simple.
Keep it simple.
And I think, in the long run, when people see it, it's going to make a big difference to you, for you as well. Like if, and I was saying I touched on this yesterday. When it is time, it's time. And then that's the end of it. It's not time for you to step back and forth and breathe real heavy and say, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I think I am?" It's when it's time to dance.
But here's the thing, though. Back to the galley point. Regardless of what you pull out, and I'm speaking only in terms of Connecticut statutes. And again, I highly recommend folks are watching this. I mean, really know your statutes where you live. In other words, it could be something innocent like the things you have there. But for instance, the moment though that it gets pulled out and used, now the language is deadly force. You know what I mean? Like, so, and that, again, I'm citing and quoting Connecticut statute. In other words, it can go easily from a misdemeanor to a felony and all that, pending the circumstances, of course, and location. But again, just, I can't stress enough, like the opening statement of the show, this is not legal advice. So you need to definitely research that. Back to as far as traveling, what was interesting, we kind of talked about traveling and like, what to bring and obviously what you can't bring depending on, your mode of transportation, plane, train, or what have you. What do you guys say on that, Rene?
Um, yeah, I made a few mistakes with traveling with tools that I wasn't sure that whether they're legal there or not. So I kind of tend to ask my friends in that neighborhood now if this is cool. In the end, I don't know. Again, it's up to your discretion. Like if carrying a
Mm.
blade can get you into a lot of shit, but you feel safer with it, it really is up to you. Like what I do is what I like to do, right? So, but if I'm amongst some of my pals and I know that we're going to a place that's safe, I play with the locals. If I'm not allowed to play in this sandbox and or I got to do this, then that's what I'm going to do. But I'm really really careful on what I take and where I take it. Because like I remember I went to when I was in Spain, I had a very basic pocket knife. It was in my bag, in my check bag, and I was going through my gear, putting my stuff away, and one of my hosts looked at it, and goes, "Oh shit, man, you better not have that on you when you're walking around."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay, let's put that back in the bag and keep it there," because I strongly doubt that my host wants me to go to the bad part of town and hang out there.
Yeah.
So let's just stay chill, right? And plus, like I
Exactly.
said, go ahead.
Oh, no, no. Finish up. I'm sorry.
I just, but I'm also like I'm a pretty boring person nowadays. I just kind of like to, if I'm teaching, and then I just kind of like, unless we're doing something afterwards, I want to go back to the hotel and just not be around people.
Yeah, it's funny when you get older like that, you realize, like, I don't know if I need to be around there, like big social events, or I'm the same way. Like, I have also partly social anxiety too, to be honest. Like a lot of people, I don't do well.
I'm just really antisocial, and
Yeah, well,
and my problem is my wife says I'm about as subtle as a punch in the nose,
yeah,
and there's been a few times where I say things to people, and you can see their face like it's like, oh, let's get out of here.
I'm shocked. I can't believe that. No.
I know it's crazy.
Datu, what do you say on that as far as traveling?
I will usually pick up a knife where I'm going. If like when I'm in the Philippines, I mean that's not a problem. You can have knives, whatever.
In the Philippines?
Yeah,
Okay.
go figure. They're walking around with
Yeah.
swords in the malls through the metal detectors.
I thought the laws were there. I'm obviously mistaken. I thought the laws there were pretty stringent. Okay.
They're looking for firearms.
Firearms. Okay.
No, you go to
Okay.
Quiapo, they're selling knives all over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
Dude, did you see the luggage photos I put of how much stuff I brought home from the Philippines? I had 2 beds worth of sharp blades. The blades are fine, and
I know they sell them out. I guess that makes sense.
people walking around with no. So, but I mean, generally speaking, like if it's legal there, I will go pick one out. I'll say, hey, listen, I'll talk to whomever. I wouldn't mind having a blade while I'm there, but I mean, listen, I'm carrying my pen, I'm carrying my flashlight. We don't, but because I sign my own checks, the credit card statement thing, and I have a pen because the menus got smaller. But at the end of the day, here's why I look at combat. There's 3 categories of combat: armed, unarmed, and mano mano. Armed, you're using a weapon of some sort to do the maneuver. Unarmed, they're armed and you're not. Mano mano, no one's armed. I work all 3. Okay, so in our program, we start with 50-50, unarmed or mano mano and armed. So dealing with someone with a weapon, we do weapon on weapon because it gives me that confidence because I have a weapon too. And when I build up technique, skill, and confidence, I drop we train that I don't have a weapon and they do. But some weapon systems never do that transition. They're always all weapon all the time. They don't know how to go open hand against a weapon, and they never even did, unarmed or mano mano, hand to hand. I mean, how many people out there who've never been in a damn fight before, and they're telling their students what to do? I mean, this is theoretical. I mean,
70%.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching, I work as best I can, but at the end of the
Mm.
day, it was given to me by my teachers. I have not field tested this material. Now, a lot of it, I try to go from I have law enforcement and military students, so I'm constantly asking them different questions if they've done any hands-on. And it doesn't take much for a law enforcement officer to go hands-on. I mean, someone resists arrest once a month, that's 12 a year. You have a 10-year career, that's 120. And I've had a guy who's gone hands-on at least 100 times. He's a 30-year veteran of the police department near us. And, I'm constantly asking my students that are in those scenarios when they've used our material, because we're more like lab techs. I mean, we're still doing it compliant. As a teacher, ultimately, I'm worried about the safety of my student, which means I'm really not trying to punch them in the face. I'm really not trying to stab them. So there's only so many. I mean, when you look at the Dog Brothers fighting, it's real contact, but it's not real context. Because who's doing that? Because it's mutual. There's rules. No one's trying to kill each other.
That can depend on the fights.
Well, I mean, there's some people out there, but I mean, at the end of the day, if someone was to be killed at an event, that would be bad for press. There might be some guys you want to kick their ass, but you really don't want to stab them through the throat. I mean, even their knives, what are they? They're flat hunks of metal. They're training knives, so we simulate a lot of things, but we really don't have that ultimate.
No, in the absence of that, we have to simulate, right?
Right. So,
it goes back to, like when you're saying, and I'm not doing the, I'm defending Dog Brothers here thing, but even with the blunt knives, I have some really wicked scars where blunt knives rounded over actually went in. In my shoulder, my neck. Eric broke 3 of my ribs with a knife. Because again, if I was a real knife, I'd just be fucking dead. But it just, for me, I kind of liked it because of the fact that I was dealing with something like that, right? The adrenaline behind it.
I love all that stuff, but I also watch some people. And listen, you always got the guys that fight it with respect in anything, and you got the people that don't. So I see people doing MMA knife fighting, and like, oh, I beat the guy. Not from my point of view. Oh, I knocked him out. He stabbed you in the kidney about 30 times.
Yeah, 5 times while you were.
Just like when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu used to do knife defenses initially. I'm like, yeah, I don't think you're aware of what just happened.
No,
listen, dude,
ugly.
I only know 2 high-ranking jiu-jitsu black belts that have actually told me there isn't a fucking chance in hell I would take someone to the ground with a knife in their hand.
Yeah.
Because there's some other guys that I've met, and again, please don't hate me, jiu-jitsu people.
You can hate me.
That have literally said, "Oh yeah, a guy pulls a knife out, I'm just gonna take him down and do this." And it's like,
bring my center mass to them on the ground, and
no, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, it's nuts, but it goes back to something that we spoke about before, Dean. It's like there are people who've trained things for a certain amount of time, and then when you present a different type of reality to it, they can't believe it. Like for me, the one thing I love about stick fighting, especially full contact stick fighting, is the adrenal dump. And, it really does remind me of altercations that I've had before when it's like, I'm in a pretty cool environment. I'm talking to a friend of mine. All of a sudden, this guy wants to rip my head off my body. And then afterwards, I got to compose myself again because I'm going to do it again, or I may have to drive home, right?
And like right?
Listen, like the first gathering I went to, I trained like a maniac. I went down to 175 pounds. I had a gas tank 10 miles long. I'm good to go. And 30 seconds into it, I couldn't hear anything because my heartbeat was, like it was so loud. I couldn't hear the things around me. And I had to go outside and lie on the floor to catch air. And that was running like 10 miles, like every couple of days. Completely different. And I think that's part of the aspect of teaching that is missing today as well. It's like, let's give people tools, but then let's put them in a situation where it's not going to be fighting zombies or fighting underwater. It's like, how many times do we see people, okay, feed me now, go 1. Oh, and now if I hit this with an elbow or do this, you won the fight. It's like, okay, let's try that for real and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's never like that, and that's what I learned. I remember like after my first few gatherings, I stopped teaching a lot of things. And even like knife sparring or knife dueling, I can't stand it. If I do it, it's because I want to warm up. But for the most part, I will not do it just because, like Tim said, like the respect of the blade.
Yeah, you're just
Again, from my
trading.
own,
Probably.
yeah, like from my own personal experience, like I know some of these hits, you're done. Like you're not fighting anymore, or it's you're either dead or you're dealing with you know an injury which is going to stop you.
No,
If you
you're
do see
paying a
blood,
significant injury. Yeah, you're right. I mean, here's a question. Yeah, a question just came in. You guys can each take a crack at it. So this is from Gabe. Dean, can you guys address the use of a pen? Does anyone carry a pen if we can't carry a knife?
yes.
Okay.
I carry I have a couple of things that I carry on a regular basis. One is a pen, and one is especially if I'm working, I have a mechanical pencil called the Pika.
Okay.
It's a carpenter's pencil. It's made out of metal, and it's stronger than most pens. So yes, and listen again, and maybe one thing things will change, but at airports and whatnot, no one gives a shit if you have a pen on you or multiple pens on.
For now, right.
Until this episode, yeah.
Yeah, until episode.
Don't blame us. That's not our fault.
All right.
Send your complaints to Tim Hartman at
dot2.com.
So
what's funny is going back to like concealment and weapons and stuff like that. I had a friend of mine give me one of these, the Emerson like bear claw.
The bear claw, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey man, I want you to have this," and I was like, "Wow, it's really cool." He goes, "Yeah, I don't like it," and he pulled up his shirt and he had like a massive wound because he was practicing how to play with it and he deployed it, and instead of pulling away, he pulled down and nearly gutted himself. Right. So again, going back to learning how to deal with the things that you play with. Like I do not carry this. This is usually around the house for coring apples and whatnot. But yeah, it's definitely know your tools, right?
Yeah.
I liked the knife.
Mm.
Not as a defensive tool, but I'm out and about. I've had that one, a couple similar ones. Having it around my neck, I need a knife. Cut what I've got to do, put it back in there. I like neck knives for that, not for wearing them as a defensive tool.
Yeah.
But
going back to the stress thing, like if when you're completely maxed out stressed, even when it's not a life or death situation, shit can go sideways very quickly.
Mm.
I remember somebody trying to cut a rope and they're being frantic about it and then they end up fucking up their hands. Or, various accidents I've seen at work where, like your common sense just leaves you because what you're seeing is just so gnarly that, you're trying to figure out what's actually happening. Like I remember a guy lost part of his hand on a table saw once and everybody around him was just staring at him and staring at the fingers. And, like I'm the guy with the Tupperware trying to put the fingers in the Tupperware, putting a tourniquet on the guy saying, we got to get the fuck out. And everybody else is just like, what do we do?
Shocked, right? Oh man.
Oh yeah, man. And I've been in that situation. I've been a deer in the headlights before.
Yeah.
But again, it's and you can't really train,
right?
Yeah. I think you obviously the only way I think you can train with that is putting yourself in scenarios where you're maxed out stressed and then you have to come back down.
Yeah.
It's
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Two thoughts at once.
No. So okay, so for you guys, okay, with taking into account legality, moral compass, your ethics, your personal ethics, moral code, all the above. Use of it. When are you pulling out? When are you pulling out that? When? So question for each of you. When are you pulling it out? What would environment? What would constitute
life-threatening? I mean, so protecting the people around me, when I was in Naples and we thought we were set up, that's when I had the knife out. But once again, I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but I trained to be a complete martial artist. So this is where I'm thinking first. I'm not thinking pulling a blade. Now, if I got multiple opponents, I'm thinking I need an equalizer because there's multiple numbers. But when I was misidentified as a police officer during the COVID shutdown, and a guy chased us into a mall mall parking lot, I parked my car. I went towards him to get him away from Janice. I had a knife on me. I never once thought of when I got out of the car, I made sure it was tucked in because I didn't want it falling out. But I had the guy off, and he got out of the car. I didn't move. I wasn't thinking pulling the knife out and stab him. I'm thinking about thumbing him in the eye or thumbing him in the throat. I was thinking hands on. So for me to think about using the knife, it means I want to kill someone, or I feel there's a need to kill someone. And so I avoid that like the plague. So it's I can't see using a tool unless I'm defending the people around me. Because for me, I'm just going to get out of Dodge. If this guy, when the guy was chasing me, I could have easily just kept driving. But the thing here is he kept following. So I stopped and I got the action away from Janice. So she called 911 and I engaged, and we filled out an incident report afterwards. And then the police got involved. Everyone talked, and like, listen, and here's the thing. If you get in a situation, you call the police, you fill out an incident report. That's not filing charges. That's starting a paper trail. And the police are like, well, listen, I don't want to, we don't want anything issue. I go, no, I don't want issues, but we're going in here. We're going to this place, which is far from our home. We're not going to just go home. I want an incident report filed in case he decides to keep taking this and escalating this while we're in the mall. We'll just stay away from it. I'm going to, but I want this, because during the thing, he goes, one of the comments he made, I don't care that you're a police officer. I'm like, whoa. So I don't know what the hell was going on in this guy's mind.
Right.
So, and this was because I wasn't driving as fast enough for him as he wanted. So that situation with that mental state, if things escalate, if the other person that was in the car came at me as well, then it would be another story. Because now I got two people and I'm protecting Janice. But like I said, she was like 50 feet behind me. I'm worried about this, but I wasn't getting ready to pull my knife out. I was getting ready to pop the guy if he came any closer.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that the road sign printing is much smaller these days? And
yes,
you
I did.
tell
I did. I said,
like the menu.
I'm sorry. I thought it was kilometers because it's right on the Canadian border.
Those damn menus and signs, huh?
Yeah.
I share some of the stuff that Tim says, but at the same token, I just don't trust anybody. And that's, when I was a kid and in Spain, you can get swarmed by 10 kids, like some of the gypsy kids, and they'll rob you and fuck you up. So it's just, and I've seen them do that to adults, right? There was an incident. I remember one time I went to go visit my mom, and I was on the subway, and there's like 10 kids, and I knew what they were up to. And like the first kid came up to me, and I just punched him square in the face and dropped him. And they got up and kind of shook his head off and walked away. And then there was a lady who was a tourist who was like, "Oh, I can't believe that guy hit that kid." And guess what? They got swarmed after and robbed, right? So for me to feel threatened enough to pull a knife out or something like that, it has to be to the point where I'm like, there's nothing I can do. Like I can't get away from this motherfucker, or my life's in danger. And especially, I think part of getting older, I found I get meaner, and my tolerance for bullshit is a lot less. Like when I'm with my kids or with my family, like I don't know what it is. There's no filters. There's no nothing. Especially I remember when my kid was when my daughter was just a few months old, and I was walking through a mall holding it, and some guy's on a cell phone. He's walking towards me. I would smack the phone out of their hands. Just so am I antagonizing a bit that way? Possibly, but I'm also letting myself, letting them know what they're in store for.
No.
I'm not a tough guy or anything like that. I just, like I said, I try to avoid shit as much as possible. But for me to get to the point where I'm gonna pull my knife out, it's just like I've exhausted everything.
Yeah.
Like conversation is left. But the same thing, like what was Tim was saying, is you got to read the room, right? Especially last time I was in Spain, I was visiting when I was teaching the seminar, visiting my family. At the airport is full of people and scammers, right? And they can be very aggressive. Like, I mean, really aggressive. And they're like pulling at me and everything else. You know, you got to know when it's just, you know, you got to judge that. Like, if it gets to the point where they're trying to drag me somewhere, okay, then that's it. The game's over. And especially if you don't speak the language, then you got to just read the room. But you also...
Oh, where did Tim go?
Finally.
He'll be back. He must say
that's what
a glitch.
You know, it's just
there he is.
There's got to come a point where it's like, okay, enough's enough.
Yeah, I'm with both of you. Like, to me, it's got to be what both of you just expressed. Ethical, my family. You know what I mean? Like nothing else is working. I've exhausted all, and now there's a threat to them. I'm sorry, you know, obviously, as anybody would do. And much to your point, you're saying you did anything and you feel your life is in danger. Like, you can't, like, you try to do anything. You know what I mean? Multiple man, they're trying to drag you away, what you said. You know, I think those would be, I feel, when it would come out and I would utilize it. You know, those extreme, you know, my family, or I feel my life is in danger, you know?
Yeah, and like I said, there's times where you just like, you know, and again, this is just going from my own personal experience and the things that I've spoken to with other people. If people are really brandishing that knife or the other thing and they want to rob you, just give them whatever the fuck they want, you know? Because whatever. Like, it's just like, I remember I was at a checkpoint in South America, and these cops were like crazy aggressive, and they're rifling through all my shit, just like literally taking stuff and putting it in their bags and stuff. You know, who am I? You know, I'm not even a statistic. I'm just they're just gonna put one in me and throw me in the jungle. Like, just take whatever you want. You want the fucking fencing mask? You want the $2? You know, you want the hairspray? Just take it. You know, it's all good. So again, I think for me, when it comes to like that particular question, I think I'm a lot more careful when I'm abroad, but when I'm local and I know kind of what's going on, then that's when I wouldn't take any chances. And especially again, if the other factors. And listen, there's been times where I've been cut off, or something stupid happened, or even like at the park where somebody says something really dumb, or they're acting nuts. Like, you know, sometimes you go to the kids' park and some dude smashed drinking out of a paper bag sort of thing, and I just get my kids and get out of there. And if they say something, I'll just keep walking, because normally with, you know, when I'm by myself, I might be more likely to go, hey, you know what, you know, go fuck yourself or whatever. But with everybody else, I'll just go.
Absolutely, man. I just get out of there. It's like, why even deal the possibility of something escalating or something like that? So I'm with you on that, man. Just leave. Just get out.
You know? Yeah, because if, like, you know, like Tim said yesterday, or even just now, when he said that he wanted to clear to make sure that his lady is fine. If something happens to you, man, and you're unconscious,
who's right? Who's doing the kids? 100%, right? Over what somebody said or did. Yeah, I totally agree. Gabe, do you guys remember that knife attack? Unfortunately, result. Yes, that was that video was all over the map on the FMA groups. It was tragic. Yeah, right across the carotid, and guy was done in seconds. Yeah, wasn't the most pleasant thing to watch, but definitely remember it. Yeah. From Glenn here. Where the heck? Okay. Glenn's question is on cane. If you guys, do you think any of you will be using a cane down the line due to health issues or training?
I just did.
Yeah.
This past
yeah,
weekend.
I was that's not the kind of cane he's talking about. Um, I was well, I was injured. I didn't walk for 3 months, right? I had to learn how to walk again.
On your foot, right? The burns
Both my
and
feet, yeah. I had like third-degree burns on my feet, lost all the feeling on them. I just recently started, running again. But for the longest time, I was either using crutches
mm,
and or I had a cane.
yeah, yeah.
And I had two canes. I have a really cool cane that's, made out of rattan. And then I went to the local geriatric store and I bought the heaviest cane I could find. That would make a lasting impression if I had to use it.
Wow.
And I'll tell you right now, it was if you want to feel really vulnerable, try blasting around on crutches for 7 weeks.
Oh, I've done it, man, with knee surgeries. Yeah, you want to feel vulnerable, 100%.
Or even afterwards, where I couldn't judge my own weight transfer, right? So it's like for someone who's been moving their entire life,
Yeah.
try that. Like, it's and honestly, if there's any time that I felt like I was going to war and carrying more than I would normally carry, it was those times.
Yeah. Yeah, when you know you're vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, this past weekend, Dean and I were in New Hampshire, and I was gimping around left and right, and I had my walking cane out because I got plantar fasciitis on my right leg, and then we had the car accident recently, and being jammed in a car for 8 hours, it affected the whole weekend. I'm limping around, so and yeah, I've used the cane off and on. I've got a Cane Master one. I've got the trainer, not the, because I had, Mark Shue used to be always around where I was going. I have the trainer has a bigger radius to hook around the neck. There's no sharp edges, where some of those things, they're like razor sharp. It's got some grips on it, but it's a heavy cane. It's just a nice hooked cane. And then I've got a nice, laminated multi-layered walking stick I have, but I mean, I literally use them because I need to use them at times. So, and I know how to fight with them if I needed to. But
yeah, I actually fought at a gathering with a cane once, and it was cane versus cane. And the extra hook on the end, the amount of weight that's on that when you swing it, because I had this, like, it was coming towards my head, and I was like thinking rattan, right? And I had at that point I was still wearing like a heavier mask, and that fucking thing dented my mask in half. And it was like, if I wasn't wearing this, I'd be spitting my chiclets out right now.
Did you get to hook anybody with it?
No, my cane broke, so I stabbed the guy with it. Yeah.
Wow. Hooked cane, like an accident. Yeah, well, yeah. If it dented your helmet, man, that's some impact. That's freaking.
Yeah, that's the saber mask. I showed you a picture of.
That's ridiculous, man.
Of Arlen's mask. Yeah, and I have like one of the first gen masks as well that I wear when I fight. And yeah, even a shitty rattan hit will bend it up nicely.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. He would just take us out and like.
That's freaking. So okay, so through this whole discussion, all right, I'm saving this question for you guys because of the towards the end here. Based on this discussion, what do you prefer that you would? What do you prefer, blunt or edge, Tim?
Well, I've been carrying a knife since I was 10 years old because I was on a farm. So I don't. Once again, when I carry my knife and I carry my pens and my flashlight, I'm not thinking about self-defense. I just carry a knife. I mean, that's just it. So, but if I had a tool, if I had to carry something for a tool, I would go much more towards the impact side, because a lot of things could be disguised, like the pens. You don't, or more importantly, the flashlight. There's less legal ramifications. I said, if I'm in a life and death situation, yeah, I'd prefer a sharp weapon. But once again, I'm also thinking that as a backup plan. Like Rene said, I'll go, You walk and talk. I tell my kids all the time. First thing you do is you tell them to stop. What if they don't stop? You walk away. What if they don't stop? Then you try to get help. I mean, we go through these steps to do what we can. And if someone's not letting you escape and you are forced to stand your ground because you're cornered or whatnot, if it's life threatening, I definitely want an edged weapon. But, at the end of the day, I can carry these things anywhere in the world. These literally have flown the world with me, and I still have them. I've had a couple of them. I've had one knife confiscated because I forgot it was in a bag. Hey, Miguel Ruby.
Same question for you.
For me, I'll take a blade. I'll take a blade any day of the week, and I think of it as I think about it, but it's on me, and I think about it's there for whatever I need use for. And that's not to say, like, if I have a pen and that's the first thing I grab, then cool, that's my pen. But when it comes to self-defense and everything else, there's got to come a point where you have to decide, that whole like judge by 12 or carry by 6 kind of scenario.
Yeah, right, yep.
As much as I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to.
Of course
put
not.
anybody. I don't want to put anybody in the hospital or worse. But in the end, like Maynard said the other day when you guys were chatting, is like, I'm going home.
Yeah, I'm going home. Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Or my family's going home. My family's going home.
Well, yeah, you might be going in lockup, but I mean,
then again, my family's going home.
I'm not that pretty anymore, so I don't have to worry about being someone's girlfriend in there. So
I don't know, man. There's some people out there really like the older look thing.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? At 57, a life sentence isn't really much of a discouragement anymore. So
we're the same age. We're the same age.
All three of us.
Actually, I'm 52. But anyways, no, man. Like, and it sucks when you have to say it like that. But to me, it's just not the 57 part. The knife part. It's like, yeah, man. Like, I don't carry with the intent to hurt somebody. That's just the way I grew up. Like Tim lived on a farm.
Yeah.
Like I got my first not to one up anybody, but I remember when I left Switzerland to go to Venezuela, and my dad bought me a knife, and I still have the original knife and belt that he gave me, and I
nice.
used to love walking around as a kid with this, what I thought was a Bowie knife, but really it's about this big, right? But we had rules, we had rules, and he said, if I ever see you doing something with that knife that you're not supposed to, whether it be throwing it, or if I cut myself with it, like, you're done. Like, I'm taking it away from you. And literally, I think it was like 30 seconds after I got my knife, I cut myself with it. And I walked like this, like, so I wouldn't have to face my dad. I would just turn to the right for like a few months.
I saw
but yeah, man. Yeah, it's again, I think if I'm going to say anything when it comes to any kind of blunt, concealed, or whatever, like, train with it. Number one, learn everything about it. Learn to tell other people about it as well if something were to happen. We talked about this, with the carabiner or whatever, or the karambit or whatever it is. I use this to cut apples, like really hard apples. But just learn to deal with it. Remember that it's on you. And also, what are you going to do if it gets taken away? Like, these are all things that you should be going through your head.
Next, aftermath, like, the effect, you know what I mean? I think that doesn't get talked about, like, what living with this, depending on what you did, with the knife, you know what I mean?
Even without a knife, like, if I may tell you a really quick story, like, I remember this happened to me a few years back, but there was someone that got assaulted. It was a woman that was assaulted by a man, and I got to him first, and I was trying to hold him there while the cops showed up, and there was slight altercation between him and I. When the cops showed up, they didn't look at him and said, he's the guy that assaulted you. Like, I was the guy who was handcuffed first, because I stopped him because in my, yet again, that whole thing of this guy just assaulted this woman, and
Mm.
I was the hero and stopped it. For the first 5 minutes, all I kept thinking is, I'm going to jail. I'm going to lose my job, and especially in Canada when you have certain assault charges or whatever, you're never going to own a firearm again. Like all that shit is gone. Traveling is finished. I can't get back into the U.S. And because I'm still a permanent resident here, if I get charged with a felony in Canada, I get deported. So like all this stuff was going through my head. Like later on, there's enough people that said no, this woman was like sexually assaulted by this guy, and this guy stopped him. The guy was fighting him, and he had to put him down or detain him. Excuse me. But for the longest time, I thought I was going to jail. So that's the part of it too. Is like you got to keep that shit in your head. It's like, is it worth it?
No, yeah, it would lose somebody else owning your house. Being away from your family, right? Losing your job, like you said.
My buddy jumped in on a domestic, which is probably the worst time to jump in instead of calling the cops.
Mm.
And he ended up going to jail because both parties turned against him. There was no other witnesses. And I know this guy well.
Turned against him. Wow.
Yeah. So and when he came out, he was a different human, right? It was like, I'm not helping anybody. Like, I don't care if I see you,
Yeah,
it was
an adult man. Shoot.
Like that's a darker side, right? But it's a reality that we have to deal with as well, right? It's like things, and especially with today's videotaping, like you could be attacked by a guy with a baseball bat, and a guy pulls out the video clip, the camera, and the last thing they see is you kicking the guy in the head because the guy fell down and you kicked him in the head, and that's the videotape that's the one that's going to
and be in court,
right? Make a difference between you going home or having some new bunkies.
Yeah, that's just, think about that. Like you could do everything humanly possible, but yet, they caught one part of the tape and all that, and you're the one that's end up, you're going to do time, and you did everything what we perceive as correct or legally defensible, but the witnesses, one part was filmed. You know what I mean? There's nobody else to substantiate what happened before that.
Yeah. Man, and then there's nobody there. It's like literally, like that's the thing, right? You have a dude coming up to you with a knife, you beat the tar out of him, and there's no other witnesses. When the cops show up, what do they see? They see a guy who's got the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah. What did Datu? I think he's going to look up episode.
He's just stressed. He's stressed about that white hair comment.
Yeah,
But now I can see those balls really clearly.
I know. Look at that. Where'd he go? Datu,
I was going to make it. Thank God I bit my tongue. I was going to make a couple comments.
Datu, we're sorry. The hair looks great. Datu,
and he's back.
Rene's a funny guy. Funny looking.
Oh, well, we all know that.
So, Datu, any comments from you on that? Like,
it just, unfortunately, like I said, we're all taught how to deal with the physical aspect, but no one thinks about the repercussions of our actions.
That's what I mean.
We're all cosplaying out there. I mean, come on, go back to the tactical John Wick covert draw. I mean, so we know what happened with one of the guys from the Atienzas. He did what he was trained to do.
No, I was with him then. That was the big thing then.
And the problem here is, let's see, like myself. Okay, I know what I carry. I do blade work in my program. Like I'll do knife work specifically to work the attributes for the open hands, not to teach knife work. When I do blade work, it's usually post black. We have a couple drills ahead of time that we do, just like I said, to get the hands to move to flow better. But I don't really aggressively teach the knife until after black belt. And it's still more from a defensive tactic situation. Can you take your stick movement and turn it into a blade work? Sure you can. But obviously if you use an edge weapon and put it into a bone region, it's going to get stuck if it's got enough mass. But I mean, everyone talks about doing things or we're cosplaying. And then when the shit hits the fan, they do what's in their motor memory, and they weren't taught other options. And next thing you know, someone's going away.
Yeah. Well, how about this? You teach somebody and you think that they're normal. And then you find out that this guy's a fucking psychopath and he's used some of the shit that you taught him to fuck someone up.
Yeah. And now I remember when I first talked about this back on FMA Talk, when it was a discussion board, one guy goes, well, they were saying, I vet people with blade work. Like, well, my teacher says you have a license for a car and that's a license to kill because you can run people over. I go, but when you put the keys of a car in someone's hand, they're not thinking about going after someone. I find that when you put a firearm or a blade in someone's hand, their demeanor changes more than anything else. And that's why I don't, when I teach sword work, who's going to go around chopping people up like that?
The Highlander.
And also besides Rene, because for the record, when you have to get rid of bodies, pigs, they eat everything except for teeth. I'm not going to tell you how I know these things, but that's what you'd have to worry about. But I mean, ultimately, we think about we romanticize what we do, but we don't think about the consequences of our action.
That's a good point.
And we look, I did this. The guy did this. The guy did that. Okay, yeah, but once again, what merit? Like when you implement an edge weapon in there, and like I said, Rene made some very good points in there.
Thank you.
I don't know how that happened, but like, listen, when it comes time, and we have to talk about this because people forget about this. Rene came out and said, it's the last ditch effort. I've done these things. I've tried to talk. I've tried to walk. So we can't just assume people think that way because some people don't think that way. They're just itching to draw the weapon out. And it's like, no. You got to get the hell out of there. There is no. Listen, I've had the shit kicked. I've been jumped by multiple people. I know normal fights that have gone 1-on-1 that have been in the 3 or 4-on-1. You don't, and I'm the one. You don't win by kicking everyone's ass. You win by making it home. The win would have been avoiding the whole encounter in the first place.
Good point.
So, but I mean, everyone wants to do the thing, but they don't think about the repercussions. And like, I knew what I could do prior to learning martial arts. And as much as I'd really love to lay someone out, I'm scared to lay hands on people because I don't want to hurt anyone.
But like, check it out though. Like when you watch a video, and again, when you watch a video of an LEO who's got someone with a weapon in front of them, like especially a knife or something, and they're already drawn, they don't plug the guy or the gal right off the bat. They have, they're like, get on the ground, put the knife down. It goes on for a lot longer than, you and I might think it should go on.
Right.
Now,
why didn't you shoot him? Well,
could be a couple different things. One is the backstop. A lot of people don't think about that. It's like, okay, so I shot the guy with a knife, but I shot into a school bus full of kids. There's a lot of things that go into that. So why the fuck are we any different? I'm not. And trust me, I had a really bad temper when I was younger. But now it's just like, no, man, it has to be to a level where I'm like, there's no chance. There's absolutely nothing I can say. And there's nothing I can do. Yeah. I need to get home. And, and that's why I love talking to some of these guys because they see it on a daily basis, weekly basis, and they can give you what the closest thing to reality is. Like Tim said, which, by the way, he makes some good points too. I'm so tired of hearing this regurgitated bullcrap that they heard from instructor and instructor's instructor. And it's like, well, if the moon and the sun are in the perfect position and you poke someone in their left eye, they will poo their pants. It's like, what? It's like, come on, man. And again, it's just because the person that they're learning from is so charismatic or whatever that they believe it. They absolutely believe it. I think when it comes to,
that's crazy. But for that advice, Rene, I think they need to reference episode 355.
I do think so. The one that's making the Hall of with the one that's getting into the Hall of Fame.
I think all
totally
your
understand
advice is in that
The episode that has changed the trajectory of FMA discussion for the
It's
rest
changed
of
the world, man. It's changed the world.
It's like Bill and
and
Ted's Ultimate Song, but different.
Well, like Rene's saying, he's still reading the comments. He still hasn't got to all the comments.
But I also want to just say I'm just a very small piece of that puzzle. Okay, Dean, like you're the bus driver. I was merely the guy on the bus. I just wanted to say.
And the wheels on the bus go round and round.
But like Tim was saying about teaching people knife and stuff. I don't teach them anything. Like when it comes to blade, like unless I know you very well and personally, not fucking happening. Not happening. I'll teach stuff like there's a drill I used to like do where people have like a knife in their pocket and we're having a conversation. When I say go, you got to try to pull that knife out and try to touch the other person. Half the time they're cutting themselves, or they're already being punched or stabbed. Like that's about as far as I go. I like more the idea of the mentality of getting away or reacting than okay, so yeah, if you cut a guy right here and you cut him down to a sternum, he's a dead man. Like that doesn't take away from the fact that I like learning that shit. Like that's why I'm very interested in Medusa and that's my original training in Piper and whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, and then as far as anybody I would teach that to would probably be my kids. My kids are actually really good at improvised weapons. Like when my daughter was 4, she took out a 7-year-old with a sippy cup. And I had no problem with it whatsoever. This kid was bullying my daughter. We went to the school and the principal's like, well, is there a lot of violence in your house? I'm like, well, I teach martial arts and I still fight and they see me training. So if you consider that violence, sure. It's like, well, we had to change the policy to a non-metal sippy cup because your daughter hit somebody with it. And my wife turned to me. She's like, can you stop smiling? But for me, that was like, absolutely, man. Like you're at that point, and I spoke with my daughter about it. She wasn't given an exit. Here's a 7-year-old kid, 3 years older, 7 to 4. It's a big difference. And at first she thought it was a game because I roughhouse with my kids quite a bit, and we kick each other's feet from underneath us and stuff like that. And although it's a game, it's a bit more. And she said, "Daddy, like I was scared," and I was like, "Let's go buy ice cream." Like I don't,
let's go.
I'm cool with it. Mind you, we were at a Halloween party where she walked into a kid and punched him, and this kid like just like kicked her across the room. And I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, listen, like the kid is bigger than you. You hit him for no reason, and you deserve this. Now, if the kid's bigger, you got to hit him when they're not watching."
Oh, by the way, next time.
Yeah, and then my wife was like, "Come here."
Yeah.
Let's go talk in the kitchen.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think the roast is burning. Let's go.
Gee, well, this has been awesome. Actually, this like episode 355 is going close to 2 hours. Wow. Jeez. Datu, any thoughts?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of good stuff. Ultimately, we talked about you got to figure out what your tool is. And part of it's going to be travel. Okay, here's what I would recommend for everyone. You want to carry something, figure out where you go. I go into too many places that have metal detectors. So an edged weapon, specifically designed an edged weapon, is going to have way too many flags. Now, that being said, first, if you're working about protecting yourself, make sure your open hand combatives are on point. Because when I use this, it's a force multiplier, multiplies the force. I still want to have good technique. I want to have good tactics. I use this when I need, that's the backup plan. You need to have an exit strategy. You need to be able to articulate things. And listen, I know people who have defended themselves and taken someone's life. It was regrettable, but it was a justified shoot, and they were never the same after that. I do not want to go through the mental trauma of taking a person's life. That being said, if it's to protect me or my family, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that job done. So I don't want to minimize our priorities, but we need to think about all these things and, think about whether if you're going to end up in prison the rest of your life. We have to be able to articulate things. I run things in my head multiple times and say, well, how would I describe this? How would I articulate this in a way that if I had to stab somebody in the throat, and of course I wouldn't stab him in the throat. That would never happen. But
Australia, man, like I just, that. Oof,
but I mean, at the end of the day, we just got to think. We got to have a game plan. I mean, if self-defense, to me, I'm always thinking about protecting myself and the people around me, and then teaching them to be able to do the same thing, because there's also vicarious liability. We can be held responsible for our students' actions. Yeah. So we need to set a good precedent. We need to talk about what our mindset is. If we're as a professional instructor, these are the things I have to worry about. I have a nice home. I want to keep it as I've got a nice distillery, as Rene talks to me. It's actually oil bottle.
I know. People were commenting on that.
There we go.
That's a huge bond collection.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's legal.
Hey, listen, man. Keep your mind sharp, right? That's what it comes down to me. When I meet somebody who I know is either like law enforcement or military that I know have been deployed or have seen some shit, I subtly ask questions, or until they trust me enough that we can chat about it, so I can, get the information that I want out of it. And also, I think I'm probably the most unpolite person that lives in Canada. Or if I'm at a seminar, if I see something that I think is bullshit, I call bullshit. I'll just like, hey guys, I'm out. I'll see you guys later. Because, there's sometimes it's just nonsense. It's like, if you put your finger inside a beer bottle and break it, it'll implode instead of explode. Like, that's something I've actually heard before. And it's just like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'll politely grab my gear and just walk out.
Yeah.
Until they ask me why I'm leaving.
Wow. So, this has been great. I appreciate you guys coming on and doing this and taking time, 2 hours of your time. I appreciate it. I thought the test run you guys did fantastic, and I think this episode in the comments speak for themselves. Good advice. That's right. Been there. Yeah.
By the way, I was just when you were talking about traveling.
Yes.
A lot of construction places will sell baseball caps that are actually hard hats.
Okay.
There you go.
Just letting you know.
Incidentally.
Also they used to make saps, the blackjacks. And they make gloves out of the same material because you couldn't have that. And they may have a hat that does that as well.
A change purse, excuse me.
They actually have a change because one of my guys who's an air marshal has it. It's a change purse in the shape of a blackjack. So he's got all these coins in there, and it's that same kind of mindset.
That's a good point. I think this is so true. I mean, martial arts training and self-defense, two different, 100%.
Martial art, martial sport, martial combat, 3 categories.
Right. Absolutely.
Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate it. And obviously it won't be the last time I bring you guys on. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever duplicate.
I was going to say, can we ever match episode 355?
Yeah, we can certainly.
Sorry, what episode is this?
355.
355 was an amazing episode.
That's what I mean. But we can always try to shoot for that, right? We can always try to have that up there and try to reach that, that unattainable goal. You know what I mean? Reaching.
So how many
you can only get that close to the sun once, right? Because our wings will melt, so we have to be very careful.
Okay, Icarus.
We're approaching 355.
Look at that. We are scholars. We even know about Icarus, and it wasn't because I listened to Metallica.
Wow.
I mean, Iron Maiden. There we go. My bad.
My gosh. All right. Well, hey guys, You guys have a great weekend. And thanks so much again.
All right. I will see you later.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
Renee, always a pleasure.
Likewise, man. I'll be harassing you guys throughout the next few podcasts.
Hey, just remember, okay, for all you listening out here on FMA Discussion, come join us on FMA Talk, Dean Frankel's Home Away from Home, or actually his new home.
On the backup. You can't undermine that. My role. I'm backup to Ty. That's a significant.
Well, I think he's trying to get rid of Ty.
And if you guys want Tim's personal cell phone number, just drop me a line.
I'll give it to you.
It's posted all over. It's easy to find.
Oh, that's
surrounded by clowns.
Gosh, too funny.
Oh man.
All right,
okay, well, nice talking to you, sir, and Renee.
Absolutely, and I'll be in touch. So,
all right, guys.
All right, good one. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye. And all right, guys. That wraps up 404. Who is next? That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure, but Tom Pena is away, so hence the reason why you're seeing me when you really shouldn't be seeing me as much. Hopefully, when he gets back, I can kind of go back in that role that was kind of really enjoying. Not that I'm enjoying this. But getting back to the question, who is next? I'll probably do early May's coming around. So I'm going to cover 52 way, the 52 block system. That's kind of interesting. Trying to get Miguel Ruby. I got you on the list if you're still watching. And a few other guys. But yeah, definitely something will be coming down the line. May is definitely around the corner. So, which reminds me, I have to get May's May's list out. Who's going to be on? So, and Rene, episode 350. That episode. Iconic. Episode 355. If you guys haven't, matter of fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to post episode 355 in the comment section. It's just that iconic. All right, folks. Yeah, so look for May's list. I'm actually going to try to get that out. You know what? By tomorrow. Yeah. I kind of forgot that May is right around the corner. All right. But I'll be in, you guys will see it's always pinned. All right. Those who watched, thank you, commented, and I will see you guys next time.